This is our news, the weekend edition, and on the broadcast tonight. One man found dead last night, pushing the country's murder count up. Plus, the police commissioner assuring Bahamians of a safe shopping experience in the downtown area. And several civic groups planning a protest march for the new year to oppose the country's accession to the WTO.
Our news is brought to you by Alive.
Good evening, I'm Andrew Knowles, and thanks so much for joining us. Topping the news, police are appealing tonight for any information that could assist them in solving the country's latest homicide after an injured man was found dead last night. The man's body was discovered near an abandoned building on Hampton Street in Stapleton Gardens around 8 p.m. Friday. When officers arrived on the scene, they met the man's unresponsive body with what appeared to be gunshot wounds. Now, paramedics were called to the scene where they pronounced the victim dead. This latest incident comes on the heels of a triple shooting outside a nightclub on Malcolm Road off East Street early Friday morning. One man died in that shooting while the other two are in serious condition in hospital. The country's murder count now stands at 91 for the year. Meantime, over on Andros, the government building was completely destroyed by fire yesterday. Police suspect the fire to have started as a result of an electrical shortage. It was shortly after 4 p.m. when police were called to the local government complex in Fresh Creek after receiving reports that it was on fire. Even residents pitched in to assist the officers as they attempted to extinguish the blaze. However, they were unsuccessful. We are told that officers from the Royal Bahamas Police Force Fire Services Department will travel to Andros to assist in this investigation. Well, as Bahamians flock to stores for that last-minute holiday shopping, Commissioner of Police Anthony Ferguson says Bahamians have no need to fear Bay Street. Just after conducting a walkabout in the area yesterday, where he got to meet with store owners and employees, the police commissioner said those working and shopping have nothing to fear.
Crime has been relatively very low. No major issues downtown. This is we have a tourism police in the downtown. We have the regular police officers down here, and we recognize that this is really our international shopping and visitation area. And so we are cognizant of that. Bahamas being the touristic nation, and a lot of officers downtown as well as over the hill.
Commissioner Ferguson pointed to the heavy police presence in the downtown area, saying it wouldn't be wise of criminals to try anything. He said the police force has even brought in off-duty officers to get involved.
Some of those private engagement might just engage those officers who are off-duty, and they officers come out and do their work in which they are paid for the hours that they work.
In other news this evening, a collection of civic groups are planning a march in January where they'll demonstrate their opposition to government's planned accession to the World Trade Organization. Our Jared Higgs tells us more.
It's a surrender of our sovereignty. When we sign on to the WTO, transnational companies and individuals from different countries will be able to have equal rights to the resources and contracts and jobs in our country.
Omar Smith is leading a group of concerned citizens who say WTO accession will hurt the Bahamas far more than it will help. To get its message across to the masses, the group will hit the streets and protest after the turn of the new year.
The march is planned for the 10th of January 2019. That's next year. Heroes Day. And yes, and we're calling on all Bahamians. We're calling on Bahamians, black, white, for PLPs, FNMs, those who are independents. It doesn't matter. This is one fight that unites all Bahamians. And so we're calling on all Bahamians to come and fight for the future of their country.
Government has set a 2019 target for accession to the World Trade Organization. In September, former Minister of State for Finance, Javargo Lang, was appointed as government's chief negotiator. WTO accession requires the removal of barriers to trade, such as customs duties. The organization mandates government's customs tariffs be reduced to an average rate of 15%. Smith and his associates say that explains the increase in the rate of value-added tax. He also slams successive governments for creeping closer to WTO accession without consulting the Bahamian people.
The government, no, because the government never went to the people for a mandate to take us into the WTO. Yes. The PLP didn't discuss it, the FNM didn't discuss it. Those are the only governments we've had since the history of this country. They never discussed WTO. But piece by piece, one by one, we have started to come in line and pass legislation and put things in place to get ourselves ready for WTO. Things that the Bahamian people have never said that they want to do.
Smith says if government wants to take the WTO route, officials need to get their mandate from the people.
If the Bahamian people want to do it, then it's time for them to put it to a referendum or put it in a general election and decide what the Bahamian people want to do. We contend that Bahamians are no fools.
That's right.
Only a fool will give away their inheritance. And so that is why we stand here and we will march on Bay Street, we will march to Parliament, to the place where we want the sovereignty of the Bahamas to remain. We believe in the sovereignty of Parliament, not the sovereignty of the WTO.
Reporting for Our News Weekend, I'm Jared Higgs.
All right, thanks a lot, Jared. Well, a Grand Bahama-based activist is slamming government's plans to join the World Trade Organization. Kendall Colebrook, also known as KCX, says companies on that northern island are already suffering. He says WTO privatization has harmed some of our southern neighbors like Jamaica.
You can check every country south of us. If you go to Jamaica, there's nothing called Jamaica. Right now, you probably get Usain Bolt and you got probably Bob Marley, but that's about it. The Chinese owns it. And here's the deadly part about it. When they come in, there's nothing called minimum wage. Today, they're working for $1.95 an hour. $1.95 an hour. And the people are disgruntled about it, but they gotta take the job. Today, in Freeport, Grand Bahama, today, they are working for $2 a room and people are lined up waiting on those jobs. Here's the sad part about it. The people that are lined up is the future Bahamians. And if they are settling, what's to come for the older folks? Who's going to take care of us?
Maria Daxon of the Enough movement says she is against WTO accession because it means Bahamians will have to compete with foreign nationals from hundreds of different countries.
The reason why the Bahamians should not be allowed to join the WTO is for several reasons. Two I'm going to give. They would have to compete with 64 other countries that are part of the WTO. They will come into this country and compete with the teachers, the doctors, the nurses, the hotel workers, the public servant, and even our fishermen. And if that happened in this country, you could imagine China. Right here, China is a part, Korea is a part of this WTO. They have the resources, they have the boats, they have everything to come into this country and compete with Bahamians and take away all their jobs. Everything, all our resources, they will take away. So I am saying no to this WTO.
And we will take our first break here, but still ahead tonight, new technology on the way for the country's armed forces. And Civil Society Bahamas outlines its main issues over the controversial Non-Profit Organizations Bill 2018. Those stories and more coming up when Our News returns.